Welcome to the Impactful Engineer Project. I'm Steve Maxey, and with my co-host and brother Jake, we are here to bring you guidance, fresh ideas, and the tools to help you become an impactful engineer.
Welcome to the Impactful Engineer Podcast, where Steve and I try to help you out with your career. We have a few episode types. I guess we'll cover the housekeeping stuff right away because we've got a good guest on today and we want to get to what he has to say. It's going to help you guys out a ton. So, first episode type, Steve and I get on, ramble on about something that we think is important. But no, really, what we've seen in our career that's really worked well for us. We try to dive into it, give some actual tips and strategies. Hey, I'm back.
Oh.
I think it's still going.
Hey, on the other side.
Hey,
and it just started over again. Sweet. So don't worry about it. We'll fix all that. Second episode type, Steve and I will bring, or one of us will get on by ourselves. We'll do a solo episode, something down and to the point, something that's highly impactful for you. Just a message we want to deliver. Third episode type, we'll bring on a guest. These guests have unique experiences, as do us all, and have unique messages to bring to you guys that will help out. So that's who we are. That's what we're doing. Bug, welcome to the show, man. And I can't wait to get into this and peel out the golden nuggets. Let's do it.
Glad to be here, guys. Glad to be here.
So honestly, from our last conversation, because I'm kind of like maybe 2 weeks ago, max, remembering who the hell I talked to and what we talked about.
Completely understand
that. So let's just start with I know we're going to get into good stuff today, but let's start with kind of a prep up to it. What led you to, the adventure that you undertook, the things you had to overcome, and that you could share today.
Yeah, so I'm a product development engineer based in Chicago. I've kind of had an interesting career path so far. So I'm about 5-6 years out from school. I've had 3 different jobs now, and kind of each one of those taught me, various things, and also just kind of led me to, I think, a more clear-cut career path. And then also, last summer in 2024, I was actually let go for the first time in my career. So I think I had a lot of interesting transitions, both in what I wanted out of a job and also, having lost my job, then kind of plotting a chart forward of what I actually wanted to do with my career and what to actually look for next. I felt a little bit lost coming out of that, job termination in the summer and kind of not knowing what I wanted to do next, what my focus should be. But, every time I went through a transition, whether it was leaving a job or, having been let go, I actually, had time to reflect and try to understand what I actually wanted and, who to talk to, what resources to use. And I think I've gotten better. And I think that's something I'd like to share today is kind of that journey and also strategies that I've implemented that have worked really well.
Yeah, man. And everybody's going to appreciate a lot because they're going to go through this at some point, whether it's voluntary or involuntary. So knowing that other people go through it, of course, but then hearing their experiences with it is going to be fantastic for them. So
yeah, I can continue too with just specifically, over the summer, I had been with a company for 2 years working in product development. So similar industry to what I'm in now, and was kind of caught off guard with the company shutting down their location in Chicago. And, they offered, some of us to relocate to Michigan where a new office was popping up. I knew at that point, though, I was a little bit dissatisfied with my path with that company, and I was expecting more out of myself and also out of the role. So it wasn't necessarily a bad, time in that job, at least, to start looking again anyways, but I was forced to, obviously. But I remember, I had about a 6-week period before, my last day where my transition really started. And I don't think a lot of people have that luxury. So, I'll just take that with a grain of salt that I did have that luxury. But one strategy that I remember early on in my career that someone had told me, it was one of my first managers at Klein Tools. And he basically said, every quarter, throughout your career, jot down the big 3 things that you accomplished that quarter, even if it wasn't a huge milestone, like launching a product, as in my jobs and my career path, biggest thing is like, what products have you launched? Like, how successful are they? That doesn't always happen in the 3 month time span or even a year time span. So for me, it was always about, what did I do in those last 3 months? What are the things I could have done better? And the reason why it's good to do that every quarter is, it's like we said at the beginning of this, episode, it's hard to remember what you did 2 weeks ago, who you talked to 2 weeks ago, let alone what you did for the past quarter. And so many decisions get made, and so many conversations are had. It's hard to track all of that. So I think for the last 4 years specifically, I've really done a great job of forcing myself every quarter to say, like, what have I done? And by the end of the year, even for end of year reviews, it's incredible just to have a resource to look back on and be like, wow, now I can see the things I did at the beginning of the year, that transition of how the product evolved, and how my roles and responsibilities evolved over the course of that year. And I think for me, it's a great talking point, for interviews, but also, for me developing a portfolio for my work.
Did you take notes throughout this process? Like, how did you document to make sure that you remembered these things?
It was a combination of, taking screen grabs of, development work, and also just keeping a live Word doc, Google Doc going of, the specific project names I was working on, and what specific roles, responsibilities I had for that, what I actually accomplished for that product. And, when it came time to make a portfolio, which I had I'll call it like a rougher version of my current portfolio after I had left, Klein Tools and transitioned to, second job with Keurig Dr. Pepper. But I learned at that point, it was like, the portfolio is only as good as, like, you are able to speak about it in the detail of the work that you actually know about it. So having the images is one thing, but actually being able to speak in detail about, the technical aspects of what you worked on, that's where, like, my notes went hand in hand with the images in the portfolio. So, my portfolio is mostly images now, but I have kind of my cheat sheet on the side that I always review, before interviews, to actually be like, what, I can speak to the technical details of what this work is. And I should know it anyways, but just like we said, distance and time, the stuff I worked on 4 years ago, it's incredible, like, how much I don't remember of what I worked on back then. But the portfolio is such just an integral tracker of that. So, my focus was, over the summer, of just really coming up with a really refined portfolio of work. I had that transition period of about 6 weeks where, while I was still, doing my day-to-day tasks with transitioning out of my role, I was, screen grabbing, doing renderings, keeping some of that technical detail of the work that I did. Because I didn't actually launch a product in the 2 years I was with Keurig, but a lot of the work that I did, I know will be in the new product that eventually will come out. And that's just the nature of product development. Things take way longer than they're supposed to, which we all know. But it was one of those foundations that I really relied upon in the new job hunt over the summer, was just a really strong portfolio, technical aspects that I could speak about. And that way, if I wanted to introduce myself to anyone, I'd say, hey, this is who I am, short introduction. Here's my portfolio, here's my body of work. Like, I'd love to share with you the stuff I've worked on, and, see if there's any overlap with the products you guys are working on. And it was such a great way for me to feel comfortable sharing, like, my technical expertise without having to convince someone, because at least it's that body of work that showcases who I am.
Yeah, I want to kind of backtrack a little bit here, because you were talking about like self-reflecting once a quarter, right?
Yeah.
And you definitely dove into, like, the technical side of, like, what are the projects, accomplishments, and stuff like that that you've done in each of those quarters. I think it's also important for anyone listening to note is, what achievements did you make in building relationships? What new things did you learn that made you a more effective engineer and communicator? And then what did I do wrong in this past quarter? Because then that allows you to pivot, make some adjustments, and then have that shorter time horizon to make changes and continuously improve throughout the entire year. And then by the end of the year, you've had 4 mile markers to make those adjustments and then really improve yourself.
But Steve, there's so much work to be done all the time. Like, how do you have time to do this?
Make the time.
I was going to say, I could tell you're a manager in engineering just based on that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve.
I mean, that's a great point though. Like, I don't think, even, with my current role, the stuff that I was doing at the end of Q4 last year, like, I've learned so much from then. things that I wouldn't do, things, how I'd start some of my new CAD projects, and how I interact with my team and how I present my CAD. It's always changing, but you're totally right. Even tracking that stuff, it's like you shouldn't be making the same mistakes. It's the age old saying, you make the same mistake twice. It's the insanity of doing it over again. But
Yep.
for me, it's like I want to continue to grow, and tracking even like the, I guess, not technical side of the engineering is also huge.
You're going to get those questions. I mean, you might as well have thought about it a little bit and have a great way to present it.
Absolutely.
Career-wise, you're going to get these questions. Even looking for a new job too, they might dive into some of that behavioral stuff too. But
yeah, I mean,
people are
every
going to
time
want
I
to
interview,
know.
yeah, every time I interview, I mean, most of the interview is on those soft skills. That how they communicate, how do they time manage, et cetera, et cetera.
It's a
Yes, you'll dive into the technical, and you want to see those portfolio
Yeah.
milestones as well. But that is a smaller proportion of the overall interview.
it's a huge part of the game too.
Mhm.
This concept of you need to get good at letting the things that are locked inside of you out, and in a way that people understand. So like doing these reflections, doing the portfolio building, do it all the time. Coming on this show, talking about
Yeah.
things, you guys, you're active on LinkedIn too, writing out these basic, I don't know, these posts that went pretty deep. Like you put some serious thought behind the posts that you put out, not two
Yeah.
liners,
Yeah, there's a
that helps.
little bit of AI in those, but I think when I came out of, the summer transition period, I was thinking back on all the things I had learned throughout product development and all the things I wanted to, change in my current roles, or I guess if I was starting my own company today, what I would want to see in that company, which I think
Yep.
is how I approach most things now, is like, if I'm running the show, what would the show look like? Um, but yeah, those LinkedIn posts were awesome for me, just to kind of, I don't want to say vent, because it's not like I was screaming at the world and angry. It's more of just like, wow, I've seen a lot in just 4 years up until this point. A lot of things that worked well and a lot of things that didn't work well. I don't think there's a perfect company out there. I don't think there are perfect employees, but it's that continuous ebb and flow of like, how can we be better? And even my current role now, we just did the classic survey of what can we do better? How can we improve? And it's a smaller company with 90 employees that's rapidly growing, and they've grown twofold over the last couple of years alone. But there's growing pains, and I've seen those growing pains with previous companies, and things that they did really well to manage that and things that they didn't. So I think even that for me has been huge, is tracking my thoughts. And I think sharing that on LinkedIn has been helpful. I've had a decent number of people reach out to me just through LinkedIn alone about some of my posts. Colleagues of mine that are, similar paths in their careers, that are working in product development, halfway across the country, that'll reach out to me and be like, hey, I've gone through the same exact thing before. It's just crazy that we don't talk about it more in this industry, specifically. And I still don't think there's a perfect way to do product development. I just want to be better, like, every day. I don't want to make the same mistakes. I want to be more efficient in how I start CAD and how I deliver prototypes, how I communicate. I was actually chuckling, Jake, you said earlier, communicating is one thing, but communicating effectively is entirely different.
Yeah.
I don't know if necessarily I've been the best communicator with my engineering work, but I've definitely gotten better over the past couple of years specifically.
Yeah. And what about the communication that you think you've made the biggest strides in?
Hey, my fellow impactful engineers. If there's one thing that you could do to help out this community, it's to keep listening to the podcast, but also that if you found value in it, to share it with one person, give us a 5-star review, or even leave a text review. It'd only take a few seconds of your time. Find that person that you think could enjoy some of this or learn from it, and pass on the good word. Now back to the show.
I think sometimes and I've seen this with, other engineers that presented their work to me. It's like, we need to dumb things down. I don't mean that to be, aggressive, but if you're talking engineer to engineer is one thing, but engineer to marketing is a different, engineer to industrial designer is different. We think differently. We approach
Yep.
things differently. My industrial designers now, like, I can see a rendering that they do, and that communicates their idea and their concept well to me, but I can show them a section view in CAD, and they have no idea how the parts are moving or how things fit together. Whereas if I go to marketing and I hand them a 3D print, they can instantly tell me like what the customer will think if they have it in their hands in the store. So it's very unique how each, facet of a company approaches, my work, but it's different. And even in, larger meetings with, higher ups, you have to know what information are they actually looking for versus I could talk about my work all day with them, but they're looking for the key points, and it's really just trying to focus on your listener and what they're actually trying to get out of the conversation. At least I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, there are so many other things going on, so many other forces, like in a 30-minute meeting or something, regardless of what the agenda is. There's so many forces going on that you got to be aware of, and how to speak to them and how to pivot and how to first identify who's like the most important in the room, right? There's a hierarchy to these things. Like, you're not just an engineer in a meeting and whatever you say, they're just going to get it just like you get it. Right? There's just so many moving parts to it. And so the more you can learn to, what you said, dumb it down, but it's not really dumbing it down. It's just like it's like we were talking earlier about doing taxes and stuff like that. Like, anyone could do taxes if they just sat down and learned the code and then learned the stupid forms they got to file and then do the thing. But a tax pro comes in, just talk your head right off, and you'd be like, I don't know what you're saying. So
Exactly,
they would,
yeah,
quote unquote,
yeah.
dumb it down, right? So you got to do kind of the same thing in engineering.
And
Analogies
even
work well, right?
Yeah. And even like engineer to engineer, I've had, someone even this week, present an idea to me, and I was like, I have no, like, we're doing hand gestures, parts are moving. I can't picture it. And, they talk to another engineer and they get it right away. It's like, even engineer to engineer, the communication style isn't always 100% effective, but again, to each their own, but we have different ways of communicating. It's like, how do I be more effective with my audience?
Yeah.
And a simple way to do that is just to ask them, right?
Yep.
Just go to the executive person, go to the marketing person and be like, hey, how do you like to receive information when I'm talking about this technical thing? If they want lots of pictures and 2 words, great, I can do that. If they want just sales figures, great, I can do that.
Yeah.
Just ask them how they want to receive the information and augment your presentation or how you're speaking and communicating to match that, how they want to receive it.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to say is like, hey, just break this down for me. Or can you break this down for me? Like, just today, I'm in a review meeting, and is a simple topic that we come across all the time, which is grounding and bonding. And it's like, okay, so I'm explaining this grounding and bonding diagram, but the first question was, hey, why does this got to be in the set? And I took it to mean you're questioning whether it should be in the set. You know everything about it, about the concept, and you're like, why would we put this in here? When the question was, I actually don't know anything about what you're saying here. Break it down for me, right? And so I went in completely wrong, and I'm like, wait a second. So you want to know what this is? Yeah, like, what is it? I don't even know. It's like, oh, okay. So they were basically just asking me, hey, break this down for me. And I'm like, okay, so we're going to start here, like with the basics here, and then we're going to walk through it. And then it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. So just, it always comes back to communication, doesn't it?
Even yesterday, I walked up to one of my industrial designers, and I'm working with him on like 4 different products. And I just started talking, and he's like, for which one? I was like, yeah, I probably should have led with, for this product, I'm adding this thing to it. And he's like, oh yeah, we're good. Versus me just rolling up, just expecting him to be on the same wavelength as me. But
right. For me, it's project number, right?
But when my transition ended, so that 6 weeks was up, my day-to-day life changed overnight. I don't know if either of you have gone through a layoff before, or have been out of work for like a significant period of time, but waking up that first day where, your calendar's, I'm going to say, completely open, even though I'll get into that a little bit later. It is weird. It's jarring because you get so used to the routine of waking up, going to work, and like having things to do, having, things to fill out your time in your calendar. And so that freaked me out at first. And I knew I wanted to, hit the ground running with being unemployed, of having a strategy in place to, actually feel like I was making the most of my days. And it wasn't always work. Work-life balance doesn't end just because you don't have a job. My work became finding a new job, and, I had a strategy in place of how I wanted to do that. I had some tools that worked really well for me. I was actually provided with service to help me, find a new role, which was essentially just a career builder, resume builder, along with like a specific person that I worked with who kind of helped me understand like who I was, what I wanted out of my career, and kind of the best roles that I could look at that might, fulfill what I was trying to get out of my career. And so my 8 to 5 then became, a new regiment, a new structure of a schedule of, I'd spend the first, 2 hours of the day, trying to reach out to people in my network that I could maybe then, schedule, cold call with or introductory call. I think that's actually how, Jake, we met. I don't really recall specifically now, but, I took a look at my network on LinkedIn and said like, hey, who are people that are, well connected or in the industries that I want to work in, working for companies that I want to work for. And, it doesn't hurt. It's scary at first trying to network like that, but
Yeah.
I knew that I had to force myself to go through it, which we can get into a little bit later. But yeah, my schedule completely changed to, I'm spending the first 2 hours of the day doing this. Then, the next 2 hours I'm doing skill builders. Hour after that, maybe I did have 2 calls scheduled for the day with, people I wanted to speak with, talk to. I was tracking who I was talking to, contact information, industries, because talking to them is one thing, but reflecting on your conversation and actually trying to extract something out of it is the entire goal.
All right.
I think there's just one.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah.
There's a
Mark,
lot to unpack.
Dude, you're just flying through all of this just amazing shit. So we gotta break it down.
Yeah,
man.
we can break it down.
We
Yeah.
gotta break it down, man. Then we get to your story if you remember. Okay, so you said, hey, I spent some time with a buddy of mine or somebody that I was connected with that said, hey, let's figure out who you are and what you want and where you want to go and stuff like that. And it's like, well, okay, that's a really important first step, and you get to do that while you're still working too. And I highly recommend that you do that.
Mhm.
One, because it's like if you get aligned and you figure out who you are and you really do some deep works on that, it could enhance the career path you're already on. And then it could also prepare you for this transition, journey, right, to another company or maybe a different industry. And there's a lot of great people out there that will help you do that. And I would say that, like, did you have a comment on that process?
Yeah, a little bit. You brought up a good point. I wish I had been doing this my whole career. I wish I had continually reached out to people. I wish this didn't start for me pretty aggressively until, I went through this transition period. Like even now, I'm still reaching out to people, not as often as I would like, but, if there's someone I see on LinkedIn that's working in an industry that I, or products that I love, I'll reach out to them and say, hey, I'd love to have a conversation with you. And to me, like if I could go back 3 years ago and, give myself any piece of advice, it would be, your current company, the current people you work with are great resources and they should be to help you elevate your career. But it doesn't hurt to speak with other people, either, your own age in the industry or, places that you aspire to work for and try to, at least build connections. And that's the one thing I'm proud of now. We can get back into it because I know you had a thought point you wanted to keep going on, but I have this list now. I have this bank of resources of emails, names, people I've talked to, and I have my bullet point list in a spreadsheet of, what did we speak about? What were the things I wanted to extract from that conversation? And who knows, maybe it will be helpful one day if I have to go through another transition
It will.
to another role. But if anything, 5 years from now, I could look back at that list and say, hey, who do I know that's worked in this specific industry that I haven't worked in? And I can probably reach out to them, 5 years from now and be like, hey, I need some help. I'm working on a product here I've never worked on before. I know you have experience with this. And they'd probably be like, hey, Bug, I remember speaking with you, a couple of years back. Hopefully everything's going well. And I think that's the seed I want to plant is, it's not for today. It may not be for tomorrow, but it will be for eventually where I might, need to use that resource. And I wish I knew that 3 years ago.
I'd like to add one quick thing on that is when you're reaching out to people, connecting to people and having conversations, you're going to be approached also, right? Other people are going to have the same thought process and they're reaching out to you to connect and learn about what you do. So put those names down too, also log the people that you are helping and then write a few bullets of how did I help this person? Did I connect them to so-and-so and they ended up getting a job? Great. I'm going to put that information in, because I think that will help way later down the line. If you need to reach out to that person because they're in this new role in a new industry and, maybe you need to strike up a conversation, you can say, hey, how has the progress of that new role been for you, et cetera, et cetera. You can check in on how you helped them originally. and then that can spur that further conversation.
It definitely goes both ways. I mean,
Mhm.
I have engineers, obviously I'm a little bit younger, but I have engineers that are younger than me now that I'm now becoming a resource for them, which was my dream, because I had great mentors throughout, the early parts of my career. But I had some interns at Keurig that, reached out to me after they had completed their internships, being like, hey, like, I want to go into these areas. Do you know anyone? I'm like, I wish I had that confidence back then when I was looking for my first roles to, communicate better and reach out to people and build out a network, because I could see that these kids that worked, with me are just in a much better spot, in a spot that I would have liked to have been. But we're all on our own journey, and I'm just really happy for them that they felt comfortable to come to me, and I'm glad I could be a resource for them too.
But you're in a great spot now, even just from the evidence of looking back at them and going, "Man, you're in a good spot." Just you being able to see that
To recognize
means
it, yeah.
means you're in a great spot too. There was one other thing that I wanted to bring up out of the just line of things that you were dropping. So there was like, I almost got a sense of like this fear around networking, or something that was like, just got to get over yourself, or just get into it, or get over the
Yeah,
hump.
yeah.
Could you tell me a little more about that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm extroverted in general, but as far as engineers go, I think we always have this stigma around us that we're just not the best at, communicating, and also just like networking in general is harder for us. Might be just a broad assumption, but I know for me, in like my case, it's more of a pride thing. I don't know why, but I had this block build up in my head of, reaching out to people. It's a little, I don't know, embarrassing, humbling when you're, looking for a job, you're out of work, you feel like you're experienced, you feel like you're talented, but you don't really see why like other people don't understand, like see that, but it's not always the case. And I think that was just how I approached it. Was I felt a little bit of that humility around asking for help
if
and
if
looking for
I
help.
can if I continue to keep talking to people and that number goes up and I don't have a job, that means that I've talked to all these people and they haven't seen the value. So maybe
To,
was that kind
to
of a thing?
Yeah, I would say to some degree. I think even just starting was hard, because
Yeah.
once I started, I felt like I gained a little bit of momentum. I could see the value that it was bringing me. I mean, that took a little bit of time, but when you get started and you do have a lot of these conversations and they do kind of stall out, or you don't feel like you're headed anywhere with them, that's okay too. I don't think every networking opportunity has to be the home run,
Right.
but it at least could lead you to the next person, and that's what I
And most of
found.
them won't.
Most of them won't. I mean, I'm thinking back, I could go back through my list. I wish I did before, today, but if anything, it led me to the next person, or, maybe steered me in a different path. If I dove too deep in one area or for one company, or who knows. But I think for me, it was a little bit of a relief once I did get started. It was tough. I remember getting a book, and it was like the 20-minute networking call. I'll have to send you guys the link to it. And I'm sure it's one of those books that like is one of those guru books that everyone reads when they're going through a
Right.
transition like this. But I actually thought it was super helpful. Basically saying that, networking shouldn't just be about talking with someone. It should be about, a mutually beneficial conversation. And I remember like one of the key points of the entire book was just the end of the conversation shouldn't be just about, me asking for help. It should be reciprocal of, hey, now you know a little bit about who I am. I work in this industry. If there's anything I could do for you one day, whether it's, in my case, it's like product development work, like, hey, I have good expertise in these areas of product development. If you ever find a need for that, like, I'm a resource for you too. So I think for me, it was once I understood that I brought something of value to the conversations, even if I was speaking with, someone who had 30 plus years of industry experience, if they could see a little bit of my younger, newer perspective, and see the value that I brought, I felt like it wasn't just me, wasting their time, which I think was like the biggest thing holding me back at that point. Was I didn't want to enter these calls and be like, wow, I just burned 30 minutes of somebody's lunch break, or they stayed late at work to have a 20-minute call with me that they thought was just a waste of time. And I was surprised how many people really appreciated that, because I don't know if it's common knowledge. I don't know if I've ever really approached those conversations, those networking conversations that way before, but ending with that of the reciprocal of what I can do for you, it made all the difference in the world for me. Now, I don't know if it's led to any contracts or work specifically, but if anything, it, I think, built a better relationship with my contacts, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, people can tell, right? When you're in a conversation, you could tell if the person's just trying to get something, from you out of the conversation, or if they are genuinely like doing the two-way street, right? And providing value, or like offering value to you as well. It's just like when you have that hunch that someone's lying, right? Like you have that hunch when someone's just trying to take from the conversation. And so I think just by providing or opening up the opportunity to provide that value, that makes them want to reciprocate instantly.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Just the fact that you're thinking about that, they go, all right, this guy's cool, you know.
Right. And matching that energy, I also felt like it did, a lot of work to prepare. And that became part of my new 8 to 5 was, it's just not locking down that conversation and that time slot with that person. It's, like what's their background? What companies have they worked with before? Where'd they go to school? Is there anyone else in their network that I know? And that does take time and effort, but it made all the difference in the world. I didn't just go into these calls being like, hey, it's Bug from Chicago. I work in product development. Can you do this for me? It was,
Right.
hey, I see like you've worked on these products before. I actually worked on a similar product, or, I struggled working with this software. It was just such a great lead in. I didn't feel like it was as cold of a call as it felt like, as it should have been on paper. I didn't go in feeling like, oh my God, like, how am I going to keep this conversation going? It just naturally flowed.
Yeah, you got rid of the anxiety before, right? And one of the favorite sayings that I have recently, and was probably be for a long time, is that what would it take? Asking the question, what would it take? So I'm like big on this now. So it's like you can ask it for anything. So it's like, oh, I'm not getting on these calls because of I feel like I have no value. What the hell am I would I even do on the call? I would feel like it would go nowhere. Well, it's like, okay, well, let's break it down. What would it take for you to feel comfortable on the call? Oh, okay, well, this, and this. Okay, well, what would it take for you to get those things? Oh, I'd have to go online and look at their profile, see what they've been doing. Okay, so do that.
You're right.
Do the what would it take cycle like 2 or 3 times and then jump in. Because the benefit. Everybody talks about it. That book talked about it. We're talking about it. The benefit. You eventually want to get there. So just ask yourself, what would it take to get there? And then just break it down.
It's a great point. I think any anxiety I had around the networking was immediately at least little bit qualmed by the preparation. It's like the more prepared I felt, the easier it was. And I could tell the ones that I prepared for, I think less, or that I think I had less to start with, because I was a little bit more nervous in how I approached the conversation. But honestly, you find that most people aren't scary. And if they're willing to have the conversation with you to begin with, they at least are trying. And if you're going it with the mindset, I guess, Steve, you already pointed out, just it's not about what I can take from you. It's like, I want to at least try to make this worth your while, versus you come in and just try to extract. But yeah, it didn't always work. I always ended conversations with like, hey, I'd love to speak with anyone else in your network that, think might be a great resource for me or could help me in my journey. And a lot of those were dead ends, and that's totally fine. I didn't expect everything to, lead to the next person, but it's kind of cool to see the web of the network and how it fizzled out, or how some branches, grew more than others. But I think ultimately, and I'm trying to think back about how I got my current role, and I think it was a combination of factors. But one of them was specifically reaching out to one of the engineers who I work with now, who had worked with somebody that I knew in my network in his previous job. And so, a random connection is basically how it started. But he at least, and this is what I've heard, I haven't confirmed it, but from our HR, but he at least pushed my resume in front of HR to be like, hey, this guy's reached out to me before. And I didn't know that. This is all going on in the background. I applied, and pretty much as soon as I knew that, my job was going to be ending, and they didn't even look at my application for a couple months, because I think the role was posted a little bit early. But who would have thought that me reaching out to that one engineer that I now work with could have led to my current role? And obviously it doesn't always work out like that for everyone that's job seeking, but it's crazy how like the little efforts do add up, and you might not always see that in the background.
Yep. I remember when I started intentionally networking and trying to reach more people and basically crowdsource a lot of information with confidence, just gaining skills and talking to people. 95, 96 episodes into this, it's just reps. I'm not anxious or fearful to get on these episodes anymore at all. It's completely vanished. The first 20 was there,
Yeah.
but like it fades after time. And like you said, you never know who's going to refer you to who. I mean, I've made some good, and here's another thing. I was going to say I made some good friends on LinkedIn, right? Well, are they friends? Are they acquaintances? Who cares? And these people can come and go. They didn't know you before. They don't have to know you after. You know, I think people treat the networking thing like if they're going to get to know somebody, they're going to be family, or they're not. And if they're not, and I'm not owning up to that, then there's some sort of tension or something that I'm doing wrong. It's like, guys, we're all here to just help each other out, get to know each other. And if, like you were saying, if things fizzle out or things grow, that's the nature of it. It has nothing to do with how good of a person you are or
Yeah.
your values. I don't know if that's holding people up.
I think it's almost, but different analogies. They're on your team for like that point in time, and they might not always be on your team, like batting with you. But if you called upon them today, they'd be by your side. But come a couple of years from now, that relationship might change. But you at least know them still to some degree, and you've shared at least a previous experience with them.
It could be at the relationship could be at the level where it's like, oh, it's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, I'll refer you to somebody. When before in it, when they were on your team, it was like, oh yeah, hey, let's hop on a call and help you with that. That is okay. It's okay to change.
But getting back into just kind of my routine, because I think that's kind of where I left off when I was doing my rant. But the new 9 to 5, like part of it too was, skill building, and I can't express that enough. I mean, you see it all over LinkedIn, but it was kind of what things in my career path, and if I was going into another role, what were some of the things that I could have grown, within. I mean, Steve kind of hinted at it with tracking, quarter to quarter, like the things you could grow in beyond the technical skills. But I did a lot of self-reflection of like what are areas that I had received in end of year reviews that I probably could have addressed better or differently, or any of those skill builders beyond the technical or including the technical that I could work on. And so for me, it was like I continued to do CAD. Like that was what I did, pretty much day to day for my jobs, and the next role I knew was going to be CAD based. So I hit it hard with some of the more fun Etsy products that I have, and the filaments all behind me right now, and the 3D printers are in the closet here. But that work didn't stop for me, because I knew if I was going to go into an interview with technical questions or a CAD test, that the last thing I would want is that I hadn't touched CAD in 2 months before that interview. So I always stayed, I feel like, relevant and up to date. And I'm actually using a completely different CAD software now than I had used previously throughout my career. And who would have thought, though, that me continuing to use the skill set of CAD would help. I had a technical CAD interview for my current position, and they let me use SolidWorks, even though that they use Creo. And so because I had stayed up to date with SolidWorks, and I was doing pretty good surface modeling for some of my Etsy products, and who would have thought that the CAD test they gave me was going to be a product that required those skills. But it was crazy how much I felt prepared for that. And everyone's going to have a different scenario when it comes to feeling prepared for whatever role you're looking for going into. But you should always, at least I think, still try to build your skills even when you're not employed. I mean, I'm sure that's obvious, but
it's obvious, but not a lot of people do it. And there's this point like that I've been thinking about lately is you can nail the interview because the interviews seem to be tailored to you at the time, right? And that's very rare. So if you want to try to time the interview or like find that one job that just fits perfectly at the time, good luck. If you want to just keep building your skills, keep talking to people, keep spreading out the surface area of that luck that you're going to start building for yourself, then it doesn't matter when the interview happens because you're doing it all the time. So
right.
You make the timing work for you. And it's just a point that I've been hammering with some people lately. It's just like, hey, just keep it up, keep the momentum going and build the skills. So
yeah, I mean, that's a great word, momentum, right? It's even when you're unemployed, you want to feel like you're headed somewhere, and it might not be, you might not have that job for the next month, 2 months, but you want to feel at least like you're accomplishing something day to day. And so that's what my 9 to 5 did. It kept me at least a little bit of regiment, but it didn't mean that I didn't still have fun. It didn't mean that I still didn't work on things that I enjoyed. It didn't mean it wasn't like I was continuously, from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed was, applying to jobs and reaching out to people. It's like I still had that work-life balance. It just, my work changed and it was different.
Mm-hmm. Your objective was different at the time.
Yeah, and then I ended up doing I think you guys might have seen it on LinkedIn. If not, I can go grab it from the wall because I'm moving anyways in a couple weeks. But yeah, I spent those 3 months doing a 3D printed art project. I learned a lot. It was stuff that I probably won't use in a corporate setting or, for any business reason whatsoever. But it was a fun little skill builder, and I was 3D printing parts and assembling them. And yeah, who would have thought though that even that would gain some traction on LinkedIn of people seeing that I was still, doing design work even though I wasn't employed.
It's actually a point that I like is usually engineers have a hobby of some sort that translates into their professional world, right? Like for you, a 3D printing art project, right? For me, it's like working on like race car stuff, right? So
right.
Showcasing that on LinkedIn as like, oh, I'm working on this really cool thing. And, people will see that passion and the excitement of you working on this really challenging thing. Just illustrates, right, your passion for the industry, and all, showcasing those skill sets that you have based off of this hobby, and that can directly translate to a potential career.
Yeah, and it's like often doesn't even matter what it is. If people know that you've done something and they see it, that's broken that layer of ice to where if you do end up talking to them, you're already past like 2 or 3 of the barriers that are normally up when you're just cold calling somebody, right?
Yeah.
You got something to talk about. They've seen something about you. They know your name. They feel so much better about maybe giving you a little more information or being more generous with that referral.
It's going to set up a little small subconscious bias, right? If they have a shared common like passion or hobby that you do, they're going to subconsciously have a little bit of bias of, wanting you to succeed in the interview process.
And like little did I know, for like my on-site interview for my current role, they were working on a gibbet for a croc, and it's just like, I made croc spurs for Etsy, so like there was overlap there. And like somebody mentioned it, they're like, oh, I saw you made some accessories for crocs, like we're working on like our own version of a gibbet to attach to a croc. And I was like, wow, like who would have I didn't even know, like it's not the type of product that they usually work on. So you never know like when those things are going to overlap and align. And I don't think besides like the 3D printing stuff, I have many hobbies that overlap with engineering. And I say that, but I don't know, I'm an avid guitar player, and you could probably draw parallels between music and engineering, or musical and technical skills. So it doesn't just have to be like, I guess, the stuff that you would associate with the role.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Steve, you're a guitar player, man. We jam all the time.
I didn't know that.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, there's actually been quite a few interviews that I've been in, and then I find out that the person like plays guitar or something, and will instantly break the ice, open up, and have a great conversation based on that for like 2 minutes, and then the rest of the interview just goes so much more smooth, right? And even though that it has nothing to do with the job itself, it gets the interviewer and the interviewee just excited to be engaged in that conversation.
So, Steve, I didn't sell my drum set, but I lent it out to somebody like semi-permanently. So, because they will play, and I have my huge projects going on that take all of my discretionary effort and time, and it's just been sitting there getting dusty. And I'm like, someone's got to enjoy this. Like, there's so many people that want to play drums that don't have them.
Yeah.
So I was just like, here you go.
The once in 3 years that you come and visit, you can play my drum set.
Yeah, exactly. And we can play the same
the
songs
same 3 songs that we play every time.
Sits out in Millville in the garage when we were freaking teenagers.
Yep.
See, I wish any of my siblings would have picked up, the bass or drums to play with me back then. But
dude, we had a total of 6 to choose from, and there was a good 3 or 4 or 5 of us at a time.
Yep.
Just to rock I love that. Out. Yeah. All right. So I don't know if you remember, Bug, but we have questions at the end of our guest interviews. We're coming up on that time. Steve, you want to shoot your question over?
Oh man, it's been a while. I don't even remember how I phrase it. So I'll
do your best.
Just in general, from the experiences that you've had so far, and your own perspectives, what makes an impactful engineer?
I'm trying to draw a good conclusion to at least like the points I brought up today. And I think one of them is that I think all agreed on is communication and communication styles. You can be a better listener, but you can also be a better speaker. And I think if there's anything I wish I knew is how I listen and how I communicate and how other people reciprocate or how they understand that. So if there's anything I wish other younger engineers could work on, it's knowing how to be more effective in that area. It's very easy for me to say, but I feel like we've pointed and highlighted a lot of the strategies that I've implemented in my career during my transition that worked well to really bolster that for me.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that, because all of the rock star engineers that I've ever come across, they will have varying levels of technical proficiency, but the one thing that they are all excellent in is being effective communicators. So perfect.
Definitely drives the impact. So mine is action oriented, of course. And we can stay with the communication aspect too if we want to, but maybe when that forced transition happened, what is the first thing or the first action that somebody could take as an engineer, or really anybody, to step in the right direction to improve their communication, to build that portfolio, whatever you want to put in there? What's the first step?
I think we talked about it too, but it's truly reflecting. It's, again, easy for me to just drop that word, but it's really looking back on what you've done, what you've accomplished, but where you want to go. And every time I've had a transition, it's been the same way. It's been, I think, getting better at it, but understanding what I didn't like, what I wanted out of my role, what I wasn't getting, and hoping that that next role would have it. But I think every time I did do that transition, especially at this previous summer, I had such a better strategy for reflecting and knowing what that meant. And it meant, tracking my accomplishments throughout the quarters and compiling that into a doc and then doing the portfolio. But it's all of those steps that I think made me really confident in what I was looking for next. And, current role is going really well. And I think it's because I kind of knew what I was looking for. And this job really aligned with a lot of those goals. And I think it's the first time I've really felt like I did the homework. Like, that first day and that first week, that 6-week transition period, I reflected and really worked hard on, what I wanted out of this next step. And I think I'll just end a little bit with that too, is I had kind of 3 concurrent offers all at once, which I was just super lucky because I didn't have any offers before then. But, I had the option then of where I wanted to go, and I don't have any regrets about my current decision. And I think it's because I had that confidence coming from all of the reflection I had done in the summer. So it does work. It does take time. It takes effort, but I think you'll learn a lot about yourself, your needs, your wants. And ultimately, we all want to be happy in our careers and what we do day to day. So I don't think anyone wants to be miserable for, the 40-hour work week for years and years and years. So, and if you do feel that way, or if you feel like there could be more, the answer is probably there could be. You just got to start. Like, that's the only thing you can do.
Yeah. And from what you were saying, it's like, I think there's another important point to layer on top of it. It's like you ended up with 3 offers, right? And then you kind of like knew what to do. You felt comfortable navigating that situation and what to choose. And it all starts with that first step and that effort you're talking about. But it's like, I've seen so many people question or just focus on, it's like, okay, I finally have an offer. And then it's like, okay, now it's the negotiation phase. LinkedIn tells me you should always negotiate your salary, and you should always, you can get more. What do you do when you deserve more? All this kind of stuff. I see it all over the place. It's like, from what I've seen and experienced and talking with you too, it's like, if you just forget about the salary for 1 second and that somebody's not, of course it's a business. They're going to come in with an offer. They're running the numbers too. Okay. But if that's all you focus on, you're going to lose out on so much of this opportunity that you'd have otherwise that would just genuinely, like, organically happen as you're moving through the hiring process. You don't have to force this stuff because you've done all the work already, and you'll just see it come about. Like, I don't know how else to put it. I'm putting it really terribly. Maybe Bug, you can help.
No, you did great. I think it just made my decision that much more easy. And I remember, my girlfriend at the time was like, do you want to go through the same cycle that you've been going through, where, you go 2 years at a company, you extract what you can, but then you find something missing and you go through it again. And I was like, I don't want to go through that. Well, she's like, well, then ignore the money. Like, you're still going to have a good salary, even though I think the offer I accepted was the lowest of the 3, but it also was great for other reasons. But again, it's not just the money, it's the location and a lot of the other factors that I was focused in as well. But it was it led me to the fact of like, yeah, this is a role I could see myself being happy at for, years to come, not being unsure because of some factors I wasn't aware of at the time, or, after my interviews, I felt less confident. But, just because I got those offers didn't mean that I had to accept one. And I think that's a little bit uncomfortable for people to hear. Obviously, I interviewed with these companies because I was interested in working for them. It wasn't just because I wanted a job. It's a lot easier for me to say that, obviously having regular income is amazing for all the reasons, paying rent and existing and living, but it is uncomfortable not to have that direction and that path. But for me, it was, is this going to make me happy in a year? Is it going to make me happy in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? I don't know. I'm happy right now, which is fantastic. And I could see myself continuing to be happy, but it's crazy how my preparation led me to where I am now.
Yeah. And then finding that perfect fit or near perfect fit of a company, right? You're going to have more fulfillment, and you're going to want to do a better job than you would otherwise, right? And that will lead you to perform better and to maybe get larger raises or more promotions, et cetera, and grow your career. So you got to think about it holistically and further out, and not just, oh, I'm making $5,000 more in salary at this job, but than I would at this other one that I think I would have been a better fit at. If you're a better fit at this one that's $5,000 less, 2 years from now, you're going to be making $15,000 more.
And that's how I approached it too, is, sure, the offers could have had a difference of $5,000-$10,000, but what is that value to me, especially if there was room for growth and areas for growth. Like, I think even the last couple interviews I did, like one of the final questions they asked was like, this is the role we're offering you now, but like, where do you see yourself fitting in? How do you see your role evolving? Like, where do you want to go into? Because I think, as you progress through your career, you're not doing the entry level roles, people are interested to see like, well, where do you want to go in the company? Like if you were here for 5 years, like where do you see yourself going? And usually for like roles, it's in product development, do you want to go in the business side? Do you want to go in the engineering management side? But even knowing that a little bit, I know that a little bit more now than I did a year ago of, where I want to head. And I think people like to see that. Yeah. They like to see at least you have a direction.
Yeah. And a word of advice for all our listeners is that is a really important question. If you say, I don't know, or I have no clue, or, no idea what I want in 5 years, that is a very big red flag. People want to know that they are hiring someone who's ambitious and has some sort of plan of direction that they want to pursue.
Yeah, and that plan can change. They just want to see you start thinking about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. You don't have to lock yourself in, but having a plan on tap to talk to is very important.
Yeah. I would say pay way more attention and spend way more time thinking about those things than the salary number. I would even invite people to take it all the way to 30 years from now. Like, just look at the ceiling. Like, realistically, how much money could you make at the end of your career? It's like, okay, so this is the salary that I could make. Okay, great. Start stepping that back towards current time and start looking at the ladder and like, okay, what would be the growth phase? It's not going to be just some huge amount of money now, and then I'd be making that for the next 30 years. It's going to be a nice little curve, and I'm going to have to do well, and the industry is going to have to do well. This company is going to have to do well. Like, stop thinking about the number. Like, even if it's 20,000, 30,000, what is it really going to be? Right? Would you rather be miserable with the extra 30K and then after taxes it's this much, and then you buy a couple more lattes because you got more money, and then something happens to your house, and then you got to fix the water heater, and then all of a sudden it's gone. It doesn't even matter. It just got sunk and lost in your bank account somewhere, right? What are you really going to do? Like, I'm imploring people to stop. Like, you got to pay your bills, you got to make good money, you got to feel good about that, but stop making it everything. You're missing out on so much more.
And I value my learning and my growth, right? You can't put a money value on that, right? I feel like now it's, right, I'll take the 20,000 pay cut, whatever it would be, just to know that I'm in a better spot now with my growth in my career. Like, you can't undervalue that. And it's hard to sell that too, from the employer standpoint, is how do I convince you that, we're going to bring value to your career? And
that's right. And, and companies and the hiring managers are not looking to overpay people to drive them into the ground. They're looking to give people a fair salary that have done this work, that have that attitude, that will come in and integrate with the team, do a great job, and contribute to their good culture. Most. if you want to go work somewhere that's a 5,000, 10,000 person firm and you just want to grind for a couple of years, that's a strategy. That's your path. That's fine. I'm talking about like the majority of us. Like they're not looking to just throw money at people, put the golden handcuffs on, and then just drive you to the ground. So doing the work to become that person and become more attractive to those companies is going to get you more money anyway. Because when they find somebody that's thinking this way and is really this person, they're going to be like, oh, dude, this person is worth this money. And they're going to give you a very fair salary, right?
Yeah, the hiring manager will fight for you too.
Yeah.
To get
Make them fight for you.
the top
I
salary.
mean, that's the mindset I'm in now. It's like the grind doesn't feel like a grind to me now, which is a weird way to put it, but like I love working on the problems I have now and the products I'm working on. It's like I want to kick ass. They could pay me, whatever they want to pay me.
That's
But
right.
if I do a great job, they can see that value. And then if I, did want to walk away, I'm sure they'd be like, no, we need you. You're doing such a great job. You're kicking ass with what we've asked of you. And I think they go hand in hand, right? It's not one of those things where you have to work for someone to recognize your value. But since I do love the work now, it's like, I hope that they can see that I love the work from the output. And that's where the
That's right.
value comes, right? They can put a value on that because they can see like what you're doing and launching and all of that.
Yeah. Awesome episode, man.
Yep. So
you got something else, Steve?
Oh, I was just gonna say before we do sign off on this episode, if any of our listeners are in that shitty situation of being laid off, and then they're looking for some actionable tips of how to get started, etc., where can they find you? Is LinkedIn going to be your best resource?
Yeah, and I'd love people to, connect with me on LinkedIn just because I do think it's been such a great resource for me in getting started. And all the cliches you usually hear about, some are true, some are not. But I've had some of my best connections start through LinkedIn. But yeah, it's a great resource to reach me on.
Okay, yeah, and just for our audio listeners, it's Bug Meehan. It's BUGMEEHAN.
Sounds right to me.
Right?
Yeah.
So. Awesome, man. It's been super great to talk to you again and catch up a little bit. For our listeners, Bug and I worked at the same company for a couple of years, so it's been great to chat again, man.
Of course. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate the time.